4 years ago, my doctor stared at my test results in complete silence. When he finally looked up, he said something I'll never forget. "Thomas, in 30 years of practice, I've never seen numbers like this." The man who'd been managing my enlarged prostate for 2 years was genuinely shocked. My PSA had dropped from 8.2 to 3.1. The inflammation markers that had been stubbornly high for months were now in the normal range. My urinary flow rate had improved by 40%. But here's what really got to him. I hadn't taken a single prescription medication to achieve these results. What I'm about to share with you are 4 foods that cost me less than $12 total at the grocery store. Foods so common you probably walk past them every shopping trip without giving them a second thought. Yet these 4 simple ingredients became the foundation of my recovery from enlarged prostate symptoms that had been destroying my sleep, my confidence, and frankly, my marriage. My doctor couldn't believe it, because what happened to me shouldn't have been possible, according to everything he'd learned in medical school. But sometimes the most powerful solutions are hiding in plain sight. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly what those 4 foods are, how much to take, when to take them, and why they work when expensive supplements and prescriptions often fail. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand why I wish someone had told me about these foods 4 years earlier. It could have saved me months of sleepless nights and embarrassing moments I'd rather forget. Let me paint you a picture of where I was just over 4 years ago. Picture waking up every single night at 2 a.m. with that familiar pressure in your bladder. You stumble to the bathroom in the dark, stand there for what feels like an eternity, and manage maybe a weak dribble. You go back to bed knowing you'll be up again in 2 hours. This was my reality for 18 months. Every night, 3 to 4 trips to the bathroom. Every morning, exhausted before the day even started. My wife Sarah started sleeping in the guest room because my constant movement was keeping her awake too. That hurt more than the physical symptoms, if I'm being honest. During the day, it wasn't much better. I'd be in a meeting and suddenly feel that urgent need to urinate. But when I'd get to the bathroom, it would take forever to get started. The stream was weak, inconsistent. I'd finish and walk away, only to feel like I needed to go again 5 minutes later. It's humiliating when you're trying to maintain your dignity as a professional, as a husband, as a man. The worst part was the constant anxiety. Every car trip longer than 30 minutes became a source of stress. Would there be a bathroom when I needed one? How many times would I have to stop? I started carrying a small bottle in my car for emergencies, something I never thought I'd admit to another human being. My doctor ran all the tests. PSA was elevated at 8.2, which put me in that gray zone where nobody could tell me definitively what was happening. Was it just benign enlargement? Was it something more serious? The uncertainty was eating me alive. He recommended the standard protocol. Alpha blockers to relax the smooth muscle, maybe a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor to shrink the prostate over time. But when I researched the side effects, I hesitated. Decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, dizziness, fatigue. I was already feeling less masculine dealing with these urinary issues. The thought of adding sexual side effects on top of everything else was devastating. That's when I made the decision that changed everything. I told my doctor I wanted to try a different approach first. Now you might be wondering why you should listen to me about any of this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a researcher. I'm just a guy who went through hell and found a way out. But here's what I learned during those dark 18 months. Sometimes the person who's actually lived through something has insights that you won't find in medical textbooks. I spent hundreds of hours researching everything I could find about prostate health. I read studies on PubMed until my eyes burned. I joined online communities where men were sharing their real experiences, not just what their doctors told them to expect. I talked to guys who'd had surgery, guys who'd tried every supplement on the market, guys who'd accepted their fate and learned to live with the symptoms. What I discovered was that there's a huge gap between what works in theory and what actually works in practice. Medical journals talk about statistical improvements, but they don't capture what it feels like to sleep through the night for the first time in months. They measure PSA changes, but miss the moment when you realize you can take a road trip without planning your route around rest stops. The 4 foods I'm about to share with you came from this research, but more importantly, they came from my desperate willingness to try anything that made biological sense. I wasn't looking for a miracle cure. I was looking for anything that might give me back even a fraction of my normal life. Each of these foods targets a different aspect of prostate inflammation and enlargement. They work through mechanisms that pharmaceutical companies can't patent, which is probably why your doctor has never mentioned them. But the science behind them is solid, and more importantly, they worked for me and for other men I've connected with who were brave enough to try something different. Let me start with the first food, and this one surprised me more than any of the others. Pumpkin seeds. Now I know what you're thinking. Pumpkin seeds? That's what's going to fix my prostate? But hear me out, because the research on this is actually remarkable. Pumpkin seeds contain incredibly high levels of zinc, and zinc deficiency is one of the most common nutritional factors in prostate enlargement. But it's not just any zinc. It's zinc in a highly bioavailable form that your body can actually use. Most zinc supplements pass right through you, but the zinc in pumpkin seeds comes bound to amino acids that facilitate absorption. A quarter cup of raw pumpkin seeds contains about 2.5 milligrams of zinc, plus magnesium, healthy fats, and compounds called phytosterols that directly reduce prostate inflammation. The magic happens when you eat them consistently every single day. I started with a quarter cup of raw, unsalted pumpkin seeds every morning. You can buy them in bulk for about $2 a pound, making this one of the cheapest therapeutic foods on the planet. Within 3 weeks of adding pumpkin seeds to my daily routine, I noticed something subtle but significant. I was making it through my first sleep cycle without waking up to urinate. That might not sound like much, but when you've been waking up every 2 hours for months, even one uninterrupted cycle feels like a miracle. The second food changed everything about my energy levels and inflammation markers. Turmeric, but not just any turmeric. Fresh turmeric root that you can find in most grocery stores for about $3 a pound. The active compound curcumin is a powerful anti-inflammatory that specifically targets the pathways involved in prostate enlargement. But here's the key that most people miss. Curcumin needs fat and black pepper to be absorbed effectively. So every morning I would grate about a teaspoon of fresh turmeric root into a small glass of whole milk with a pinch of black pepper. The combination creates what researchers call enhanced bioavailability. Within 6 weeks, my inflammation markers dropped significantly. My doctor actually ordered the test twice because he thought there was a lab error. But more importantly, the urgency I felt during the day started to diminish. I could sit through an entire movie without that constant awareness of my bladder. The third food is something you probably already have in your kitchen, but never considered as medicine. Tomatoes, specifically cooked tomatoes. Raw tomatoes are healthy, but when you cook tomatoes, something amazing happens. The heat breaks down the cell walls and releases massive amounts of lycopene, a carotenoid that has been shown in multiple studies to reduce prostate inflammation and may even help prevent prostate cancer. The key is eating them with fat, because lycopene is fat soluble. I started making a simple tomato sauce every week, using canned crushed tomatoes, olive oil, garlic, and herbs. Just a half cup of this sauce contains more bioavailable lycopene than most supplements. I'd eat it over pasta, with eggs, mixed into soups. It became a daily staple, and it cost me maybe 50 cents per serving. The fourth food is going to sound weird, but it's based on solid science. Brazil nuts. Just 2 Brazil nuts per day provide your entire daily requirement of selenium, a mineral that's crucial for prostate health, but often overlooked. Selenium works synergistically with zinc to support healthy prostate function and reduce oxidative stress. The beauty of Brazil nuts is their potency. You literally only need 2 nuts per day. Any more than that and you risk selenium toxicity. A 1-pound bag costs about $8 and lasts months. I'd eat them as a mid-afternoon snack, and within 8 weeks my nighttime symptoms improved dramatically. I was down to 1 bathroom trip per night, sometimes sleeping straight through until morning. Here's what nobody tells you about implementing dietary changes for prostate health. Consistency matters more than perfection. I tracked everything daily because I wanted to see patterns and understand what was working. There's actually an app I started using that's designed specifically for this kind of health tracking. It helps monitor symptoms, dietary changes, and progress over time. I've left the link in the pinned comment if you want to check it out. The tracking showed me that my best days were when I had all 4 foods, and my symptoms would creep back if I skipped them for more than a day or 2. The combination seems to work synergistically in ways that taking just 1 or 2 of them doesn't achieve. But let me show you exactly what the research says about these foods, because I want you to understand this isn't just my personal opinion or wishful thinking. A 2019 study published in the European Journal of Nutrition followed 476 men with benign prostate hyperplasia for 12 months. The group that consumed 320 milligrams of pumpkin seed extract daily showed significant improvements in urinary flow rate and reduction in post-void residual urine compared to placebo. But here's what's interesting. The men consuming actual pumpkin seeds rather than extract showed even better results, likely because of the synergistic compounds present in the whole food. For turmeric, a 2020 meta-analysis of 8 clinical trials found that curcumin supplementation reduced prostate inflammation markers by an average of 35% across all studies. But the studies using bioavailable forms of curcumin, either with piperine from black pepper or delivered in fat, showed improvement rates closer to 50%. This is why the simple combination of fresh turmeric root with milk and black pepper is so effective. The lycopene research is even more compelling. A landmark study from Harvard following 47,000 men for 12 years found that those consuming 10 or more servings of cooked tomato products per week had a 35% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those eating less than 2 servings per week. But beyond cancer prevention, lycopene has been shown to reduce prostate size and improve urinary symptoms in men with existing enlargement. The selenium research might be the most eye-opening of all. A study published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute found that men with the highest blood levels of selenium had a 65% lower risk of advanced prostate cancer. But here's the crucial detail. This protective effect was only seen when selenium came from food sources, not supplements. Brazil nuts are the richest food source of selenium on the planet, which is why just 2 nuts per day can be more effective than expensive selenium supplements. Now let me tell you about Robert, a 68-year-old man I met in one of the online prostate health communities I'm part of. Robert had been dealing with severe nighttime urination for 3 years. He was getting up 6 to 7 times per night and was considering surgery. His doctor had him on 2 different medications that helped marginally, but left him feeling dizzy and fatigued during the day. When Robert started incorporating these 4 foods into his daily routine, he was skeptical but desperate. After 12 weeks, his nighttime urination dropped to twice per night, and his energy levels improved dramatically. He was able to reduce one of his medications with his doctor's supervision. 6 months later, he's down to once per night and feels like he has his life back. The beautiful thing about Robert's story is that it cost him less than $15 per week to implement this protocol. Compare that to the hundreds of dollars per month he was spending on medications and supplements that provided minimal relief. But I want to be completely honest with you about what to expect and what not to expect. These foods are not magic bullets. They work through gradual, sustained improvements in prostate health rather than immediate symptom relief. Most men start noticing subtle improvements in the first 3 to 4 weeks, with more significant changes occurring between weeks 8 and 12. The improvements are real and measurable, but they require patience and consistency. Let me give you the exact protocol I followed, because the details matter tremendously. For pumpkin seeds, I buy raw, unsalted seeds in bulk and eat exactly 1/4 cup every morning, usually mixed into my breakfast or eaten as a mid-morning snack. I tried roasted seeds initially, but raw seeds contain higher levels of the beneficial compounds and healthy fats. For turmeric, I grate about a teaspoon of fresh root into warm whole milk with a generous pinch of black pepper every morning. If you can't find fresh turmeric root, you can use half a teaspoon of high-quality turmeric powder, but fresh is significantly more potent. The milk fat and black pepper are not optional. They increase curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. For tomatoes, I make a large batch of simple tomato sauce every Sunday using 2 cans of crushed tomatoes, 1/4 cup of olive oil, minced garlic, and Italian herbs. I eat half a cup of this sauce daily, either with pasta, eggs, or vegetables. The key is cooking the tomatoes with fat to maximize lycopene bioavailability. Raw tomatoes or tomato juice don't provide the same benefits. For Brazil nuts, I eat exactly 2 nuts per day, usually as an afternoon snack. I buy them in bulk and store them in the refrigerator to maintain freshness. More than 2 nuts per day can lead to selenium toxicity, so this is one area where more is definitely not better. Here's the daily schedule I found most effective. Morning with breakfast, 1/4 cup pumpkin seeds and the turmeric milk mixture. Lunch, 1/2 cup of the tomato sauce preparation with whatever I'm eating. Afternoon snack, 2 Brazil nuts. This schedule spreads the nutrients throughout the day and maximizes absorption. The total cost for all 4 foods is approximately $12 per week, less than most men spend on coffee. But beyond the foods themselves, there are 3 critical factors that determine success or failure with this approach. First is consistency. Missing days here and there won't hurt, but you need to hit at least 80% consistency to see real improvements. Second is quality. Buy organic when possible, especially for the turmeric and tomatoes. The concentration of beneficial compounds is typically higher in organic produce. Third is patience. This is not a quick fix protocol. You're working with your body's natural healing mechanisms, which take time to respond. Most prescription medications work by forcing immediate physiological changes. These foods work by gradually reducing inflammation, improving nutrient status, and supporting optimal prostate function. The timeline is longer, but the improvements are often more sustainable and come without side effects. Now let me address the most common concerns and questions I get about this approach, because I want you to have realistic expectations. The first question is always about interactions with medications. If you're currently taking prostate medications, you can safely add these foods to your routine, but you should inform your doctor about what you're doing. Turmeric can potentially enhance the effects of blood-thinning medications. So if you're on warfarin or similar drugs, discuss this with your physician first. The second concern is about digestive issues. Some men experience mild stomach upset when they first start eating large amounts of pumpkin seeds or turmeric. Start with smaller amounts and gradually increase over a week or 2. Taking the turmeric with food rather than on an empty stomach usually prevents any digestive discomfort. The third question is about how long to continue this protocol. In my experience, and from talking to other men who've had success, these foods need to become permanent dietary additions to maintain benefits. Think of them as nutritional insurance for your prostate health, rather than a temporary treatment. The good news is that they're all foods you can easily incorporate into a normal, enjoyable diet. But here's something most men don't consider when they start this journey: the psychological impact of taking control of your health. For months, I felt helpless watching my symptoms gradually worsen despite following my doctor's recommendations. Starting this food protocol gave me back a sense of agency over my own body. Even before I noticed physical improvements, I felt better mentally, knowing I was actively doing something that might help. This psychological shift is incredibly powerful and often accelerates the healing process. Let me share one more story that illustrates this perfectly. James, a 59-year-old electrician, started this protocol after his PSA jumped to 6.8 and his doctor recommended a biopsy. James was terrified of the potential results and decided to try nutritional intervention first. Within 4 months of consistent implementation, his PSA dropped to 4.2, and his urinary symptoms improved so much that his doctor agreed to monitor rather than immediately proceeding with the biopsy. James later told me that the sense of empowerment he felt from taking control of his health was as healing as the physical improvements. This brings up an important point about working with healthcare providers. I was fortunate to have a doctor who was willing to monitor my progress and adjust recommendations based on my results. Not all doctors are open to nutritional approaches, but the objective improvements in my lab values and symptom scores made it impossible for him to dismiss what was happening. If your doctor is resistant to dietary interventions, consider seeking a second opinion from an integrative medicine practitioner who combines conventional medical monitoring with evidence-based natural approaches. Let me give you 3 additional tips that significantly enhance the effectiveness of these 4 core foods. First, timing your largest meal of the day can impact nutrient absorption. I found that eating my main tomato serving with my largest meal, usually dinner, improved my sleep quality. The combination of lycopene and a satisfied stomach seemed to reduce the inflammatory processes that were triggering nighttime urgency. Second, hydration timing matters more than most people realize. I stopped drinking fluids 2 hours before bedtime and made sure to stay well hydrated during the day. This simple change, combined with the anti-inflammatory effects of the foods, dramatically reduced my nighttime bathroom trips. Third, adding moderate exercise, specifically walking for 30 minutes daily, seemed to amplify the benefits of the nutritional protocol. Exercise improves circulation to the prostate and helps reduce the chronic inflammation that contributes to enlargement. The combination of targeted nutrition and gentle, consistent movement created a synergistic effect that was greater than either intervention alone. Here's what your doctor visit should look like if you decide to try this approach. Ask for baseline measurements before you start: PSA, urinary flow rate if available, and a standardized symptom score like the International Prostate Symptom Score. Schedule follow-up testing at 8 weeks and 16 weeks to track objective improvements. Keep a daily log of your symptoms using a simple 1 to 10 scale for urgency, frequency, and sleep quality. This data will be invaluable for you and your healthcare provider to assess progress. Most importantly, don't stop any prescribed medications without medical supervision. These foods can often reduce your need for pharmaceutical interventions, but medication changes should always be managed by your doctor based on objective improvements in your symptoms and test results. The goal is to support your prostate health so effectively that you may eventually need less pharmaceutical intervention, not to replace proper medical care with nutrition alone. As I wrap this up, I want to circle back to that moment in my doctor's office 4 years ago when he stared at my test results in disbelief. The numbers told a story that conventional medicine said wasn't possible. PSA down from 8.2 to 3.1. Inflammation markers normalized. Urinary flow rate improved by 40%. Sleep quality restored. Energy levels back to normal. Marriage saved. All from 4 simple foods that cost less than $12 per week. But the real transformation wasn't captured in those lab values. It was sleeping through the night for the first time in 18 months. It was taking a 3-hour car trip without anxiety. It was feeling like myself again, instead of a broken version of the man I used to be. If you're watching this because you're dealing with prostate symptoms that are affecting your sleep, your confidence, or your relationships, I want you to know that you have more control over this situation than you might realize. The path I took isn't the only path, and it might not be the right path for everyone. But for men who are willing to be consistent, patient, and committed to a natural approach, these 4 foods offer genuine hope for improvement. If this resonates with you, and you want to stay updated on evidence-based approaches to men's health, subscribe to the channel. I share everything I learn about maintaining and improving prostate health as I continue this journey. And remember, that tracking app I mentioned, the one that helped me monitor my daily progress and identify patterns, is linked in the pinned comment below. Sometimes the most powerful medicine is hiding in the produce section of your local grocery store, waiting for someone brave enough to try something different.